Hey, how's everyone doing on this fine day? We are going to be playing some Minecraft and reading some Reddit stories. So sit down, grab your snack, and buckle in. There's going to be about an hour of Minecraft and Reddit stories. This is my first video on this channel, so please like and subscribe, and feel free to give me any feedback, whether it's on my gameplay, on my how I'm talking, even. Um, you can even give me stories that you want me to read. Just any feedback you have for me, please drop it down in the comments below. It would be greatly appreciated. And please enjoy. This post is from user no underscore process underscore 1558, posted in r slash am I wrong. Title reads, Am I wrong for punching my stepfather after he opened and drank a bottle of scotch my dad got me to share on my 21st birthday? My father passed away 8 years ago. Mom remarried 5 years ago. I will admit, I never tried to blend with him or my step siblings. I was happy for Mom, but to be honest, would have preferred had it remained just the two of us. I am 19. I live at home since I am going to college locally. My father had a bottle of scotch he bought when I was born. It was kept in a cabinet down in our basement. It was Dad's area. I did not know why I never moved it. I figured it would be safe and not touched, and for many years it was. I don't know why he, my stepfather, felt the need to open it, but he did. I admit I lost my cool and I did punch him, but he has never touched anything down on that side of the basement yet. He suddenly forgets and goes for the one thing he knew meant everything to me. My mom is upset because he did call the police, and it appears he wants to put a restraining order against me. Cops took the report, asked me some questions, and left it at that. This happened around 5 hours ago. I'm here to vent and maybe have my eyes opened. My mom wants me to apologize, but I don't feel bad. It actually felt good. Felt like I got some level of control. He was not a bad guy per se, I guess, but he also always tried so hard, and after my half siblings were born, I was pretty much forgotten. Raising twins is not easy, and with me being so close to 18 when they were born, I guess they figured I was okay. Maybe I'm just being a little asshole. I don't know. Edit. They are my half siblings, not step. Sorry. Let's get into some of the relevant comments. The first commenter goes, You're not wrong, but context matters, between it being an honest mistake or a deliberate act. Did he know the significance of the bottle, and was it kept in a special location? I once did something similar on accident because I didn't know. OP responds with, He claims he did not know, but he has not touched anything in that corner ever, and he has lived with us for years. He knows how important that corner is to me. Another commenter says, Did he do it knowingly, or did he not know it was given to you by your father? OP responds, He may not have known that particular bottle had importance, but has never touched anything in that corner of the basement. He knows that is my father's corner. He has never touched anything in that corner for years. Why did he suddenly feel the urge to touch and open stuff now? He could have bought his own booze. My mom and him claim it was an honest mistake. I am having a hard time believing that. Go years without touching, but suddenly you want to touch and drink stuff? A third commenter responds with, violence isn't the answer. That being said, everyone who's asking if they knew your dad gave that to you, it doesn't matter. The scotch was in the basement, untouched, and quite obviously not his. He knew he didn't buy it. He knew he didn't put it there. For whatever reason, he felt entitled to something that was not his. If he's been around for 5 years, I'm almost sure he knew about the meaning of that bottle. OP then responds with, This is what gets me, when my mom and him claim it as an honest mistake. He knows how much that corner means to me. Why not just buy some alcohol or something? Why purposely go through my dad's stuff? I don't drink, but doubt stuff sitting around for 19 years tastes all that great either. A fourth commenter writes, You're not wrong, but that was a hurtful thing to do by your stepdad. Although you did react in the moment in a way that was not great. Him calling the police and demanding a restraining order is completely odd. Where is your mom in all of this? Everyone needs to use their words now in a calm and respectful manner. Your mom needs to step up / step in and mediate this. Stepdad needs to be made to understand what is and isn't appropriate when it comes to items your dad left behind and respectful to your feelings about him. And you need to apologize for putting hands on him, but you were not wrong for having strong feelings about him ruining a treasured memento. OP then responds with, "My mom wants me to apologize. She is on his side. She claims it as an honest mistake. I don't buy that because he has never touched my dad's stuff in that corner of the basement. He had no reason to touch anything in that corner." Now a fifth commenter writes, "He wants you out of his life. Yes, he did it on purpose. Do you have anywhere to stay on your dad's side of the family? Also, if I were you, I would double check the will he left, because if he left you half of the house, then he needs to move out, not you." OP responds to this commenter saying, "Not where I am going to school. Go to Texas A&M at the moment, and my dad's side of the family is from New York." Personally, I do understand where this OP is coming from. However, I don't think violence was the answer. I would be deeply hurt by what he did, but at the same time, I feel the consequence for the action the stepdad took was slightly higher than needed. I'm not sure what I would have done, honestly. But yeah, I personally probably wouldn't have punched him. But yeah, let's get back into it. A small update came about 9 hours after the original post. Update reads, "My stepfather is going through the process for the order. Mom said she is taking him to the notary. She asked me to apologize so we can smooth things over. I told her I would only apologize if he could tell me why, after all these years, he decided to go and touch and drink an entire bottle of scotch in a single sitting. My dad was a drinker, and even if he did not do that, my mom said I have no right to make demands of him. It seems some think it was just forgotten about. It was not. I turned a small corner of our basement many years ago into my dad's spot. I have his urn with other odds and ends, like his sports memorabilia, favorite drinking glass, his shot glass collection, and his liquor cabinet, with his chair that was in the living room. Now, did he know the significance of said bottle? Maybe not. I don't talk to him much. Mom 100% knew. Thing is, that should not have mattered. He knew the significance of the corner. Why was he touching anything in said corner is beyond me. Also, this bottle was in a neat wooden box. I don't drink if you are looking to drink. Do you honestly go for the one in the box, or would you go for the unopened ones? I will look into the value. I know the name was Macallan Sherry Oak 30. This is the first time I ever threw a punch before. Never been in a fight before. I don't think I have anger issues. I just lost it because my dad has slowly been forgotten. Mom used to wear his and her wedding bands as a necklace, but about 3 years ago she stopped. We used to go out and get Bluebell ice cream together. We stopped doing that after the twins were born. Pretty much everything changed after the twins were born. I lost my cool, because it felt like another piece of my dad was cast aside. She even lets my stepfather have his Restore Super Sport, which technically was supposed to be mine, but because my dad had a standard will, he left everything to Mom. I reached out to my uncle, and he's going to fly down on Monday so we can all sit down and talk. As it stands, it seems like he is going forth with the order. My uncle does not think he will be able to get an emergency order for this situation, so he hopes on Monday we can come to an agreement. About 3 days later, the OP left another update. It reads as follows. Thanks for all the feedback, and an update as promised. My uncle and I spoke with my mom and stepfather. First, my uncle called bullshit on my stepfather and said he has been drinking it over time. He did ask what was his endgame. Refill it with something cheaper? My stepfather did not say anything. He also told my mom off. He said my stepfather may have an excuse, albeit a shitty one, but still an excuse. He told her she had no excuse. She knew what my dad's intentions were for the bottle and for the car. He said he told my brother he should list what he wanted me to have in the will, but told her he said it would be fine because he trusted my mom with his life. He also questioned why I was paying for school. Apparently, my father has a sizable life insurance policy, which I was unaware of, but also tracks because mom has never actually gone to work. Either way, I probably don't have much claim to that either. At that point, I simply asked for my dad's car and the key to his storage unit. She and my stepfather can keep everything else. So that was the conversation. Was pretty much my uncle going at them and them just listening. My uncle asked me again to move in with him and suggested I take a semester off or a year and travel with him. He said he would help me with school. Told me some stories. It seems my mom and my dad's side of the family did not get along, which is why we moved to Texas, where my mom is from. Either way, I am okay with everything. Oddly enough, I do not hate or even feel angry with my mom. Just numb, I guess. I hope with time, maybe we can fix that. But for now, going to avoid contact with her and them altogether. Staying with my uncle at a hotel, and we will start packing. He is going to have the car transported to New York. I lost the booze, but I did get back the car, which is better anyways, if I'm being honest. Oof. My uncle said do not worry about the order of protection if he gets one. If push comes to shove, he will hire an attorney for me. So yeah, not a bad outcome. I wish I knew why, but yeah, still don't know why he drank it. Let's get into some relevant comments. First commenter on that third update says, so glad you have your uncle. I hope your mom feels horrible. She put a man and her new family before her own son and your father's wishes. Maybe this will wake her up and she can see what a horrible mother she has been to you. Again, so happy your uncle had your back and called them out. OP responds to this. My uncle was going to try and be a peacekeeper, but after I told him I was paying for school, he was beyond upset. He told me beforehand not to worry about anything and let them have it. Outside of the car and the storage unit, everything else can be replaced. The second commenter responds with, I'm glad you have your uncle. It sounds like the best possible outcome at this point, and I'm glad he swooped in like he did to read them the riot act. Still not what you deserve. You deserve a mom who doesn't prioritize some dick over her child. Thank you for updating though. Strange to say, I was worried about you. I lost my dad at 12. It's hard. Wishing you truly all the best. Commenter actually adds an edit to this comment and says, I'm not saying you're a child age-wise, in case that wasn't clear. Just that she was supposed to put you first. OP responds to this comment saying, thanks, I do appreciate it. And yeah, losing a parent at any age is rough. I was 6 when my grandpa passed, and remember that was the only time I had ever seen my dad cry. It hit him hard, which is also why I'm so glad I got the car back. My uncle told me my grandpa had the same car. Some frequent questions that were asked was what kind of car did the OP's dad own, and OP responds saying it was a 1969 Camaro SS. A third commenter writes in, is your uncle based in New York City? Anywhere in the 5 boroughs or even Long Island? I asked because if you move in with him, even on paper by having some mail sent to his address, you could get New York residency and qualify for in-state tuition at CUNY school, which is pretty much the best affordable, genuinely education you can get in this country. They also make the transfer process really easy, so if paying for school is a concern, that might be a pathway that doesn't hurt you or your uncle too badly. OP responds to this, he lives in Rochester, but he said he would help me get an apartment if I wanted to be closer to the city. I will keep this in mind. That is the last we've heard from this OP since the story was published, but honestly, that was a great ending. I'm glad the OP actually got a chance to move away from the stepfather. It seemed like they were bashing heads the whole time anyways. It didn't seem like they were a good fit. I do hope he is able to rekindle a relationship with his mother, as he already lost his father. There's no reason to lose his mother as well. It's sad all around. So glad the uncle stepped in, as many people already said, but it's got to be reiterated. The uncle truly is the savior of this story. The OP deserved every bit of help he received from his uncle, and I am so glad that he actually ended up on top. Let's go ahead and get into the next story. This story is titled, My 32M Girlfriend, 25F, of 4 years, crossed a boundary with a male friend. I'm unsure whether to end the relationship or try to rebuild trust. This was originally posted on Relationship Advice by Reddit for Fun. I'm looking for outside perspectives because I'm struggling to see this clearly. My girlfriend and I have been together for about 4 years. We are exclusive and have been planning to get married after a period of living together to see how things go. There has been a male friend of hers that I was uncomfortable with. I never told her she couldn't have male friends, and I told her that she was free to make her own choices. But I specifically told her that I did not have a good feeling about this person. I was especially uncomfortable with the idea of her drinking alcohol alone with him in private settings. She told me he was only a friend and that he had no bad intentions. She continued the friendship. Recently, I noticed her behavior had changed for a few months. When I brought it up, she said she felt I was just upset that she was spending more time with him. A few days ago, she went alone to his home and drank with him. According to her, he later asked her to go upstairs and she went with him. They talked for a while, she hugged him, he held her by the waist, and he got close to kissing her. She says she stopped him before a kiss happened, asked him to take her home, and left. I did not find out because she confessed. I noticed something was wrong and confronted her, and then she told me what happened. Since then, she has repeatedly apologized. She has said she should not have gone there, should not have drank with him, should have listened to my concerns, should have told me immediately, and that she understands she damaged my trust. She says she has no feelings for him, and that nothing like this has ever happened before that night. She also contacted him afterward and told him that what happened should not have happened, and they crossed a line. However, I told her I expected her to cut contact immediately. She said she could not do it abruptly, and that it would happen gradually. I believe she genuinely loves me. I also still love her, and that is what makes this decision so difficult. At the same time, I feel deeply hurt because my biggest issue is not only what happened physically, but that she allowed herself to get into that situation after I already expressed my concerns. I am torn between A, believing this was a serious mistake from someone who loves me and trying to rebuild trust, or B, accepting that the choices she made show a level of disregard for the relationship that I cannot move past. For people who have been through something similar, how did you decide whether trust could actually be rebuilt? Is this something that can realistically be repaired, or is the relationship fundamentally changed? This post was only made a day ago, as of today, which is August 4th, so there are no real relevant comments as of yet. But my personal opinion on this, I don't think that there's a way to rebuild the trust there. That is such a boundary that she has crossed, and it would be near impossible to rebuild that trust, especially with her declining stopping contact with said friend immediately, saying she has to do it gradually. It's definitely a red flag for me there as well. But yeah, personally, if it were me, I don't think I could rebuild that trust between me and her. But yeah, let's get into the next story. The title of this story is Am I the Asshole for Telling My Sister-in-Law that her opinion isn't more important than mine? This was originally posted by user OKRun2877 on Am I the Asshole? So, a bit of context. I, 24F, am getting married in September. I love that month since it's kind of between summer, fall-ish. Anyway, my fiance, 29M, proposed to me last December on my birthday. I've met his family countless of times, my future mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law. They are all very cordial and friendly. Well, this mess started when I began organizing my wedding, which is very tedious but really exciting. We hired a wedding planner to see how we could mix our tastes and hobbies. He's a bit of a data computer nerd in coding. I call him my little hacker, and he loves the Matrix movie, which I still haven't seen. Anyway, we wanted to add little quirks whenever we could, maybe some comp numbers and some Matrix references hidden in between our wedding invitations and decorations. I am a fan of Breaking Bad, a nerd when it comes to the Oscar race movies since I was little and Ariana Grande. I know. It's been so fun to see how we can mix it all together. Well, last week, I invited over my mom, my future mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and both of my sisters to our third wedding planner meeting. They saw all we had done and found it cute. I made sure that those little things were hidden well enough to not be seen quickly, but could be pointed out. my sister-in-law, out of nowhere, says that we should cut it, that it's too tacky. My fiance explains that we both discussed it and loved the idea. She doubles down and says we should be more classy. I looked at her, said that these clues were not only hidden, but would only appear on our wedding invitations. She looked at me so crazy, like she couldn't believe I said that. She said she was just looking out for me. She went on to say that we shouldn't have chocolate cake. It should be strawberry. How my dress shouldn't be princess cut since it's too 80s. How I should dye my hair brunette because it fits my face. At some point, it started sounding like orders. I looked at her and said, well, everything you just said I should change, I really like, so it's staying. Period. I think it would have been better if I had cursed her out. She didn't speak again, but by the end of the meeting, she pulled my partner aside and, according to him, demanded that I respected her more and her opinions, since her dream has always been to plan a wedding, and I would be her future sister, so I should not place her aside. What? I mean, maybe. She's like super offended right now, and my partner suggested that I should maybe apologize. At first, I was like, there's no way I will, but I'm prone to act a little immature. And I wondered if I actually went too far. She gives a little update here. So, update. As we were having breakfast, I told him that I didn't feel great, how he told me I should apologize over setting boundaries on our wedding. He said he understood and his sister was definitely in the wrong, but that she's too sensitive and she can take things very badly. He said he could talk to her if I didn't want to, but I'll have the rest of my life dealing with her. So I just thought I need to learn how to handle her this early. So yes, I call her and I begin by asking how she was. I kid you not, she immediately responded with, I thought you called me to apologize. Girl, excuse me? I fully said, well, no, I'm calling to thank you for your suggestions, but I'm sticking with what I chose. It was giving temper tantrum. She said, I'm only trying to help. It's like stopping a future car crash, you know? I hang up. I told my fiance and he agreed what she said was messed up. She began calling him non-stop, which I think is crazy, but he's ignoring her. Her text messages to him are like, what did she tell you? Are you ignoring me? She got the wrong idea. I'm your sister. That's about the end of the story there. The verdict written here is not the asshole, and I absolutely agree. Let's get into some of these relevant comments. First one says, apologize for what? Not letting her take over your wedding? Ask him if she's always trying to take over things, or if she's just targeting at you. Not the asshole. OP responds with, it's just super weird because even when she suggested I should dye my hair, she said I should use the same box dye she does. That's a bit odd. Seems like she's trying to make it her wedding. Commenter 2 says, look, on topic, not the asshole, and your fiance needs to tell her this wedding is for you guys, and you'll have it how you like. Repeat as needed, she's being insane. Side topic, how can someone who is into movies and based on your post history at least open to science fiction not have seen The Matrix, your fiance's favorite film? Why haven't you watched it? It's honestly a good question. I was kind of considering the same question. OP then responds with, everyone keeps asking why I haven't watched The Matrix, and I get it. But part of our dynamic is kind of that he's like the young millennial guy, and I'm more of like an older Gen Z girl. Our tastes are a bit different, and he's much more reserved than me, but I like that. And to answer your question, after some time of making plans to watch them, we promised each other at our honeymoon, 1, I would watch all Matrix movies, prequels, or whatever they are with him. 2, he would listen to all of Ariana Grande's albums and watch 2022's Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once with me, plus 2020's Best Picture winner, Parasite. A third commenter says, info, how old is sister-in-law? And not the asshole, but I really am super curious. Like, is she 12? OP responds with, she is 27. Wow, acting like she's 12 for sure. I agree with that commenter. This is an additional comment from the OP. You guys are right. I'll talk to my fiance and sister-in-law tomorrow and put some boundaries and ask why he isn't putting me first since it's our wedding, not hers. Kind of scared as fuck, but we move. She then makes a update about 4 months later. So it's been some months since I decided to post what my sister-in-law said as I was trying to make sense of my wedding. It got to a point where I understood how she moved and acted through my fiance's family, and I haven't been able to update since wedding planning ain't for the weak. But yes, she tried to call my brother for days after telling me that her opinion on my wedding was like trying to prevent a car crash. I took some advice from my post and literally just kept it moving. Well, at one point, probably a week later, my mother-in-law came over to my house, not to have a conversation with him or us, but with me. She told me my future sister-in-law always had an attention problem, and while exhausting, she never means to hurt or insult anyone. I told her I understood, but that either she could stop nagging me about our preferences for our wedding, or I could no longer bring her in for preparations. She agreed to talk to her. Fast forward to the next day, by like 5:30 p.m., she was DMing me on Instagram like a madwoman, telling me I was being a bitch over an opinion she gave when I invited her over to see my wedding planner, that I could not understand the bond she had with her brother. Now she prays he will divorce me by next year so he can be himself again. I blocked her. I talked to my fiance. I put it all on the table. I even grabbed some phrases I saw in response over my original post. I told him I could no longer keep it going this way. Either she stops trying to insult me and our wedding, or she's not getting invited. After some talking, he agreed. He called his sister and explained. She exploded at first, calling me a wicked witch and how I changed him. After some days, though, she actually apologized to me through Instagram after I unblocked her, since she texted my fiance she wanted to make peace, and I accepted it. She hasn't really said anything after that, and while I still don't know if she's planning to say something more in the future, I think everything will go smoothly in September. Oscars, Matrix, Ariana, Indeed had a small cameo in all my invitations, and yes, I finally saw all Matrix movies with my fiance. They're very interesting. Some relevant and top comments on that update. Let's get into them. First one says, "Oh, with that level of entitlement, I fear she might do something at the wedding, like spoil your dress or say some bullshit and make it about her. If you have bridesmaids, keep some of them on duty to keep an eye on her, and if they see any bullshit, then to make sure to bring it to you and your husband right then and there." OP then responds to this comment. "After seeing these comments, I'm definitely more concerned. I really hope she meant the apology she sent me. I'll take steps to be more careful around my wedding, though." Second commenter says, "Good for you for sticking your ground and not backing down. However, you glossed over the most important part of the story. Which Matrix was your favorite? And were you subjected to the fourth film or just the original trilogy plus The Matrix?" OP then responds, "The Matrix, one of the greatest films I've ever seen. Animatrix, incredibly good. The Matrix Reloaded, overall okay, a little tiring. The Matrix Revolutions, I didn't get a lot of things and it felt a little messy. The Matrix Resurrections, I think it had an interesting concept." This all Matrix stuff is really funny to me. She continues, "My Matrix opinion started going down as I watched more and more. Still, I remember looking at my fiance when the first one ended and being like, okay, I get it. This is amazing." A third commenter writes, "Good luck at the wedding. When she makes a scene or ruins it, you should rescind the invitation and make sure she has no access to the venue." Fourth commenter writes, "Why are there so many people involved in your wedding planning? Inviting parents and in-laws for wedding prep meetings is wild. Is this a cultural thing? Still not the asshole, but good luck to you. Your in-laws are never for you to deal with. They're for your fiancé to deal with. I'm glad it looks like he's growing a spine to shut his sister's nonsense down." That is the last comment on this post, as well as the last we have heard from the OP. Honestly, sounds like a monster-in-law in the sister-in-law. That's horrifying. I can't begin to express how scary that would be for her, because imagine it gets to her wedding and the sister-in-law messes everything up. Like someone said, they could spill something on her dress or yell and make it all about her. Hopefully none of that happens, but yeah, glad that was a happy-ish ending, but yeah, let's get into the next story. This next story is also coming from Am I the Asshole, posted by BeHappy97. The title is, Am I the Asshole for Calling My Mom a Liar After Finding Out My Dad Is Not My Biological Father? A couple trigger warnings with this story. Mentions of R-word, infidelity, and past trauma. This post comes from September 2nd, 2025. I, 28 female, was raised by my mother and spent most of my childhood visiting my dad every 2 weeks and certain holidays. My dad is no longer in my life. The last time I heard from him was about 12 years ago. However, the reasons for this falling out are not relevant to this post. My dad used to tell my sisters that the reason he and my mom divorced was because of an affair that happened around the time I was conceived. He told me that he has always been suspicious that I am not his biological daughter. However, it is worth noting that nothing was ever said to me directly. I look nothing like my dad and have some medical things that are genetic that don't seem to come from either my mom or my dad's side of the family. Finally, about a month ago, I decided I wanted to find out. I did an ancestry kit. Last night, I got the results. Not a single member of my dad's side of the family was listed. However, there were a lot of people I'd never heard of before coming from my paternal DNA side. One of those relatives shared more DNA with me than my sister. I found her on social media and got in touch with her. Turns out, her dad was working at the college my mother was attending the year I was conceived. Through some deductive reasoning, we discovered she was in fact my half-sister, and that man was my biological father. When I called my mom to ask her about this, I made it clear I wasn't angry, her marriage was her business, and I'm just looking for answers. She claimed she had never slept with anyone outside of her marriage, and that ancestry must not be very accurate. I chose not to confront her at this time. I wanted to gather more information and calm down a bit before trying to get some answers again. Then a few hours later, she called me back, this time claiming that she'd had time to think about it, and she did remember being surprised about her pregnancy with me, as she hadn't been very sexually active with my dad during that time. She said she was really disturbed because she doesn't know who that man is and is worried she was a victim. I kinda lost it at this point. I was disgusted that she was trying to make herself a victim in this situation instead of taking accountability and giving me the answers I deserve. I called her a liar and she started crying and hung up the phone. My husband says I was way too harsh with her and I put too much pressure on her out of the blue. He says I should have been a bit more gentle with her and reassured her that I'm not angry. Maybe he's right, but honestly, I am angry, so I don't know. Edit. For a little more context, my mom has a long history of lying compulsively. We have been working on our relationship for about a year, but is almost incapable of taking accountability for the truly traumatic childhood she gave us. I'd be more inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt if it wasn't completely in line with her character to have an affair. Plus, my dad already told my sisters he knew about the affair. Also, for those who have been asking about Biodad's position at the university, he worked in the kitchen, was not a professor. My mom was 25 at the time. The verdict on this post is not the asshole. Let's get into some of the relevant comments. First comment says, is it possible that she was roofied and actually does not recall? OP responds, I mean, yes, anything is possible, which is why my husband thinks I'm the asshole. It just seems a little more likely given the evidence that this was a consensual affair. Second commenter says, OP, the traumatic childhood she gave you could literally be because of R-word. I grew up with a parent who was assaulted. She had issues not diagnosed till I was an adult that definitely affected mine and my sister's childhoods negatively. Honestly, I would think this disclosure would make more sense. To be clear, it doesn't excuse what she did, but it might explain. Either way, I'd be hesitant to call her a liar about this without any proof. OP responds with, this is actually helpful. It's true. I definitely could have handled that conversation better. And no, it's not impossible that something horrific happened to her and changed her as a person. I'm not convinced, but it's worth considering. Perspective is important, so thank you. A third commenter writes, wanting to know who your actual father is pretty natural. Unless your mother has dementia or some other mental issue, she is being evasive on the topic. You deserve straight answers, not the asshole. A fourth commenter writes, She can easily ask the father, given she already knows her half-sister. OP says, apparently he died a while ago. It would have been so convenient if I'd been able to talk to him. A fifth commenter writes, not the asshole. Your feelings are completely valid. This is why it's strongly recommended to tell truth to adopted kids and donor kids, since finding out later in life is traumatic and feels like a betrayal. I just wanted to note that this wasn't the case 30 years ago. It was normal to avoid complications about paternity, to protect the kids from feeling different or something. People weren't aware of how damaging that can be later. So, your mom lied, but she could have been trying to do what's best for you. I'm not trying to find excuses, but more like add some context. Only you know if it's applicable or not. OP responds, I can totally get past a lifetime of lies. It might have been the best for me. What I'm having a hard time getting past is the fact that now I'm an adult, I found out, and I came to her and calmly presented the facts without judgment, and she still won't admit it. It's incredibly frustrating. A sixth comment writes, really depends on what he did there. Could have just worked in the cafe or been an assistant. OP responds, this is it. He worked in the kitchen, however, he was much older than her. That is the last of the comments on the original post, but she does make an update about 10 and a half months later in July of 2026. Let's get into it. Hello. I decided to do an update as the situation changed a lot and, in my opinion, got super crazy. So for anyone who is interested in this story, here is how things played out. After I got off the phone with my mom, the day I confronted her, I texted her and told her I'm sorry for the way I reacted and that I just needed some time and space to process and try to figure things out. I spoke with my new half-sister about what my mom said. Super awkward conversation, telling her that my mom is claiming that her beloved late father may have done something sinister to her. And she said absolutely not, that her father was a kind and gentle man and would never do something like this. I apologized and spent the rest of that conversation asking for more details about who he was and what his life was like. It was actually quite lovely. I didn't speak to my mom again for weeks. I just didn't know how to move forward. I didn't really believe her, but had no way of knowing for sure. It was super weird. Do I just accept her explanation and try to move forward in my relationship with her? Or do I step away from her, potentially destroying the relationship with my mother when she was telling the truth the whole time? About a month later, I received an email from her. In this email, she told me a story. She said that she's been thinking a lot about everything, and she started going through her old files from that time in her life. She said she found a therapy record for my sister that was dated 1 week after my conceived date. She said at the time she was working at a daycare, and she would take my 2 older sisters to work with her, where they would be watched by other staff members in a different room. She said one day she found out one of my sisters was being SA'd by a staff member. I found out later through my sister that this was very true, and she remembers it happening. My mom says she absolutely lost it in the daycare's kitchen, throwing stuff and screaming until she finally shut herself into a closet. She said she remembers the daycare cook opening the door and offering her a ride home, and she doesn't remember anything after that. She went on in her email, telling me how traumatic it was for all of them, and that's why she blacked the next several weeks of her life out. But maybe I can figure out if he ever worked there and if the cook was my biological father. I was able to verify through my half-sister that he was working in that daycare the year I was born, and I was even able to see some pictures of him working there. So I was finally getting some answers, but I still felt like her story had a lot of holes in it. Like, did she take her 2 young girls minutes after finding out about this abuse and immediately invite the person who she barely knows into her bed? That feels weird. And the only way I feel like that would make sense is if she knew him better, which would imply that she would at the very least recognize him from a photo taken at the time he was working there. Or did she call him later and meet up with him? But that would again imply more of a relationship, and she should have some memory of him. I decided to call her and try again for an open conversation. During this phone call, I told her I was able to verify he was the cook, and I showed her the photos. She continued to say she has no memory of him. I told her about my lie detector test, that she will go to a hypnotherapist to access repressed memories. She said maybe if I had more background info about her life, I'd understand how she could have blocked these memories off. She went on to tell me in graphic detail about how she was R-worded at 13 and how my grandma didn't believe her. How my grandma was a terrible mom. For context, I love my grandmother dearly and was the single best thing about my childhood. And she forced her to get an abortion when she was 17. She explained my sister's essay at the daycare in graphic detail as well. She cried and expressed how terrified she was to lose me. I got off the phone with her feeling violated, disturbed. I don't know. It felt really icky though. I decided that day that I was going to have to come to terms with the fact that I will never know how I was conceived and if my mom was being truthful. As luck would have it, 2 weeks later, I ran into one of my old stepdads. We chatted for a minute and I decided to ask him. He was with my mom when I was between the ages of about 7 to 17. I was very careful about how I asked. I said, "What do you know about my father?" His response, "Oh, good, your mom finally told you about your biological dad." That answered all my questions for me. He knew where he lived, that they worked together, and that I have his eyes. I called my mom again, told her I know the truth and it's time to be honest. She continued to insist that she has no idea who he is or how this happened. I told her that using my sister's very real trauma and giving me such graphic details of her own essay as manipulation tactics in an attempt to distract her from the lies is deeply disturbing behavior, and a close relationship with her was not serving me at this point. Many weeks later, I got another message from her. It was very long and went on and on about how hard this has been for her and that she needs to know if our relationship is salvageable. She said it's been so hard on her that the night we last spoke, she drank 2 bottles of NyQuil and that her husband found her and made her throw up, for which she was grateful. When I was 17, my younger stepsister committed S-word and I found her when she was still barely alive. She died in my arms. My mom knows how this statement would affect me. I responded telling her that I'm sorry it's been so hard for her to be a victim of her own actions, that in that novel of a text message, there was not a single indication of accountability or remorse for the way she handled things, and that it's incredibly fucked up to use my past traumatized with S-word as a weapon to elicit sympathy. I told her that the only thing that can even begin to fix this is accountability and a genuine apology, and until she can do that, not to contact me again. She sent another long message admitting she lied about knowing who my father is, saying she was trying to protect me from the truth, which is that she was R-worded and that's how I was conceived. Since then, my sister has done enough digging to get several family members' testimony that she had a very consensual and extended affair with the cook from her job, as well as a few other affairs from the same time frame. After this, I told her to leave me alone and blocked her number. There have been a few other things. My grandmother came to see me to try to advocate for her. Her husband has made a few attempts to reach out, etc. But I feel like it's over now. I'm left with feelings of deep sadness that my mom couldn't find the courage to show up and be a mom for me, that I still have not been able to just have a talk with her about how I came into the world, and knowing that I will never know the man who, by all accounts I've received, was a really amazing human. At the end of all of it, I've had my mom, my dad, my biological dad, 3 stepfathers, and a stepmom, and it's crazy to me that I sit here now writing this story without ever feeling like I've had a parent. Thanks for hearing me out, Reddit. At least I don't wonder if I'm an asshole anymore, because my mother was in fact a liar. That is an incredibly sad story. I didn't expect it to get so gut-wrenching near the end there. So many mentions of her past traumas and how her mother used it against her. It's disgusting. That's so sad for her. But yeah, let's get into some of the relevant comments. The first comment says, "You poor thing. Your mother clearly has issues, but she has no right to traumatize you, weaponize the trauma your sister went through, etc. You may want to have a look at a couple of support subs, estranged adult kids, raised by narcissists, etc. See if anything resonates, and more importantly, find coping mechanisms for navigating through this absolute mess. OP then responds with, "Thank you. I'll definitely check out those subs. Luckily, I've built a really strong support system with my husband, sisters, friends, and have an amazing relationship with my own young girls. Plus, I'm set up with a really good therapist. Unfortunately, this is truly just the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to my mom and the way that I grew up. So, I've gotten really good at processing these types of things in a healthy way. I am sad, but am all in all doing really well." A second commenter writes, "Wow, your mom is a piece of work. You don't deserve this, OP. You're absolutely not the asshole. And you have every right to protect yourself from this vile behavior. It's clear you've done some amazing hard work. You have great insight and strength. Don't lose that. I hope that in time, maybe you'll be curious to find out more about your biological dad. He sounds nice, and you deserve some of that. But, as you pointed out, you've had many parental figures, and they've let you down. If you need time to heal, then you should absolutely take that time. We don't know all the details of your relationship with your mom. These are still only snapshots of your life. Still, if you're asking for second opinions, I'd say there's enough here to recommend no contact. She's not ready to change. There is no evidence that she will ever take responsibility, and that's not your burden to bear. You've done all that you can. Now take this permission from a stranger and be selfish. Look after yourself for peace and good luck." And OP responds to this comment saying, "I agree completely, and thank you for your encouragement. I've spent the majority of my 20s working hard to not let my past turn me into someone my kids can't look up to. So comments like this really mean a lot to me. I find a certain amount of peace in knowing I gave her many chances to fix things and tried as often as I could to make her feel safe in being able to talk to me about this after my initial harsh reaction. I don't have to regret my actions, and that's really nice. I have been talking more with my half-sister, and it turns out we have another one too. They're planning a trip for all three of us to meet later this summer, and I'm so excited to learn more about my father." That's actually awesome. I'm glad this OP gets to connect with her newly found family. I genuinely hope that they have a great time together and hope she learns more about her biological father. Let's get into the third comment. "My grandmother came to see me and tried to advocate for her. Oh, I hope you shared with her what your mother told you about her." OP responds, "I definitely did. Turns out the things my mom said about her were true, and she regrets it deeply. Interestingly, she has never told my mom that she regrets not believing her when she was R-worded. It made a lot of my mother's behavior make a little more sense. I encouraged my grandmother to talk to my mom. I told her that I'm not the one who needs to be there for my mom right now. She is. And maybe if she could find the courage to take accountability for her actions, just maybe it'll heal whatever is broken in my mom, and we can stop this generational trauma here." A fourth commenter writes, "I'm just curious, so is biological dad alive?" OP responds, "No, unfortunately he died in 2012. A fifth commenter writes, "I'm sorry that you're going through this. I'm relieved that your husband is supporting you, but I think that you need to see a therapist as soon as possible. I went through something with my biological parents, and it really affected me for years until I realized that their actions were not a reflection upon me or my moral character. I was not responsible for their failures in life. I did want to mention that many things can be true at the same time. First, that your mom was SA'd when she was a teenager and never spoke about it until now. 2, that your sister was SA'd and that it was never mentioned to you before now. 3, that your sister's SA traumatized your mom as well. 4, that your mom lies. 5, that your mom should have informed you before now about your biological father. 6, that your biological father had sex with a married mother. 7, that whatever happened between your mother and biological father was not meaningful enough for them to keep in touch, as far as anyone knows. 8, and that your mother loves you in her way, but that you may need to distance yourself from her for the moment for your own mental health." OP then responds to this with, "Thank you for this. Perspective is a crazy thing. The only thing is, my mom talks about her R word all the time. It is tragic, but everyone who I've talked to about this has said she told them about it. This is just the first time she has told me about it. Same with my sister's abuse. This was the first I'd heard of this one, but there were several other incidents throughout our childhood that my sisters and I suffered that I did know about. I'd be inclined to believe my mom was traumatized by it, because how could you not? But I personally witnessed very muted reactions to being told about things that were happening to us several times, and I think that she was just playing this one up to continue trying to add credibility to her lies. The next day, the OP makes a second update and says, "Well, I guess it's not over, Reddit. Yesterday, my little brother came to town to see me. He said mom called him to tell him she had just been diagnosed with MS. If anyone doesn't know what that is multiple sclerosis. My sister says it's probably a lie, that she's done stuff like this before and the timing is too convenient. She's certain it's just a play to get me to call her. I don't know much about MS, but I'm curious. Does anyone know if that could explain things? I read online that MS can affect long-term memory. Is there a chance it caused her to really forget who she was?" That is the last we've heard from this OP regarding this post, and that is very unfortunate for her, but I do honestly hope that there is some way of rekindling a relationship with her mother. Obviously, she doesn't have a connection with her dad, nor her biological dad, who has sadly passed away. But honestly, if her mother does have a medical condition that is inhibiting her memory, that could lead to a rekindled relationship between them. Although rocky, but that would be a nice update in the future if that were to come to fruition. But yeah, butting in here to kind of explain what I'm wanting to do here. These rings that I made around here, I'm wanting to make like test tubes. Kind of going for some pretty Fallout-y vibes. Not a word, definitely not a word. But if you've played Fallout, you know, like the FEV tubes that hold the super mutants. That's kind of what I'm going for. They're going to have like creatures in them. Not entirely sure if I'm going to use mobs or if I'm going to build custom creatures as of yet. But that'll definitely be something I figure out. I do want them to be pretty tall. Probably around like 40-ish blocks. We'll figure that out as we go. But I know for a fact that this platform that I'm on here is about 15 off the ground. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Sorry for all these jump cuts near the end. But I wanted to cut to what I had actually got done in my world. Because, unfortunately, some of the footage that I had got corrupted. So you weren't able to see the building of these as well as that. And, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching and making it to the end of this video. You guys are truly appreciated. Especially if you are actively watching. That is more appreciated than you know. I know a lot of the times when people watch these style of videos, they'll watch them to kind of fall asleep to because it's kind of chill. But yeah, if you're actively listening, it is greatly appreciated. But I understand if people put these on to sleep. I've done the same thing. But yeah, I do want to give a couple shout outs to 2 YouTubers that I actually got this idea from. I've been watching them for quite a bit now. The first one is Baby Jamie 1, and the second is Droven. But yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good one.